In this video, I'll be breaking down my 7 absolute top counters and explaining in detail why they are so effective in various scenarios and why you should add it to your arsenal. The first top counter is the check left hook. There are many ways to defend and throw it. So if my partner throws a jab, I will parry it with my right hand. Sometimes my opponent's hand is down and I land the check left hook counter. Sometimes our hook falls a centimeter short, but with good timing and speed, you can easily follow up with the cross. And sometimes our partner has perfect form and keeps the right hand up and blocks it, but the cross still has a good chance of landing. This also works if your opponent is in southpaw stance and throws their cross, which is their left straight. If my opponent throws their left hook, my rear hand should be up to carriage block and into the same check left hook. Now if my opponent throws the cross, I can easily adjust by cross parrying into the same check left hook. The cross parry is usually a no-no, but if you know the rules, you can break them. And I do in fact know the rules. By cross parrying, my right side face is open for a left hook, but I'm ready to lean back for it and ready to bring my hand back to my face if it does come. And the check left hook comes so fast that it usually intercepts them and stops them from throwing that hook. If you are confident in your head movement, you can just shoulder roll into the check left hook. The check left hook is an easy and effective way to counter. We see the highest level of UFC fighters use it all the time, and this is why you should add it to your arsenal. Speaking of head movement, my next top counter is the slip and cross. Believe it or not, this one works against the jab, cross, left hook, left uppercut, or even right uppercut. If my opponent throws a jab, I like to slip left, which is the inside of the jab, and I throw my corkscrew cross over top of their jab at the same time. Slipping to the inside is usually a no-no, but again, if you know the rules, you can break them. Slipping to the inside on the jab is only wrong if you keep your head there after you slip, because your opponent might throw that cross right after. But as long as you move your head right after, you should be able to dodge it. If our opponent throws a cross, by slipping to our left, we simply end up slipping to the outside, which is the textbook way of slipping, and we land our same cross counter. It also doesn't matter if your opponent is in southpaw stance and throws their jab. Well, what if your opponent throws a left hook or right hook? What about an uppercut? As soon as you see your opponent throw a punch or move that shoulder, throw that cross down the middle as you slip to the left. A straight line beats any circular punch, so even if they threw a left hook, your straight cross will hit them before they hit you. So you can see here, my opponent throws a left hook and my straight beats his circular punch. Here is another example. Now in this clip, my opponent throws an uppercut, but same thing, my head is off center line and my cross lands. And here's another example. As you can see, this is another super easy yet super effective counter you should add to your game. On to the next top counter, which is a counter to the left hook, the step and lean back cross. When the left hook comes, I like to lean as I step back with my rear foot. I also step back into the pivoted position with my rear foot so it's already loaded up, and I don't need to pivot. Our opponent's left side face is open when swinging their left hook, so we fire that cross. Now despite the fact that in many of these clips my hands are down when I lean back, I actually try to and teach my students to keep their rear hand up when leaning back. I want to comb my hair with my rear hand to carriage block when I lean back, just in case if I miscalculate the distance and my opponent catches me with a long left hook. My next top counter is against the right hook. I do the exact same thing, step and lean back just enough to evade the right hook, but this time I fire back with the jab cross. Why the jab cross instead of the cross? Simply because my opponent's right side face is open when they throw their right hook, and they're usually facing to my right, which makes the jab perfectly lined up to their face, and then I follow up with the cross. Onto my fifth top counter, which is to the left roundhouse kick to the body. As the kick comes, I like to shoot my hips back as I brush the kick. I want to make a hook with my wrist and lift the leg up, holding the leg up with my lead arm rear deltoids. I want to keep the leg up so my opponent is focused on bouncing on one leg. Then I like to throw my hook and double step low kick. I used to throw just the low kick, but my experienced opponents would retract their leg back into their stance and check my kick. But with the extra hook I throw, it usually causes my opponent to drop their kicking leg to the ground for me to kick. If they manage to keep the leg up, maybe because I threw the combination multiple times at them already, then I will simply kick to the inside rear leg. With experience and time, you will learn to be able to adapt and make that adjustment on the spot. Sometimes I'll use the undercatch instead, by blocking with my rear arm and undercatching with my left arm, then clear the leg and into the same combination. The pros to using the undercatch instead of the brush is that you can go for the sweep. The con is that experienced fighters will be able to retract their leg back into their stance as soon as you catch it. The pros to brushing the kick is that it is very tough for the kicker to retract their leg back into their stance until you let go of the leg. And I'd say the con is that it is hard to sweep your opponent using the brush. Sometimes after undercatching, if you are fast enough, you can cup the top of your opponent's ankle with your other hand, which makes it tough for your opponent to pull their leg out. So at the end of the day, it is really dependent on your opponent's ability in retracting their leg out versus your ability to keep hold of the leg. Whether you undercatch or brush is totally up to your preference. Try both and see which one you like more. After brushing or undercatching the left body kick, I like to switch it up and go for the gazelle hook to the cross. And sometimes I follow it up with a double step low kick. If I'm sparring with someone I spar often, someone who knows all my moves, I'll follow up with the cross hook, sometimes the liver hook, and sometimes I follow it up with a whole 3 to 4 punch combination just to mix it up. The sixth top counter is against the left low kick or inside low kick. I like to step my lead leg back into the opposite stance as I extend my lead arm to keep the distance and chop behind the leg when my opponent drops their kicking leg. I usually do this when my opponent is moving forward and closing the distance aggressively, which is also what causes them to overcommit and drop their leg forward for the low kick counter. I also step my lead leg back to load up my rear leg, then push off my rear leg and into my dart and cross to double step low kick. This is especially the case when someone throws their low kick, misses, or retracts their leg back to check. When I throw the cross instead, usually their checking leg will drop to the ground. Sometimes the inside low kick lands as I am trying to step back, which leads to my last top counter, which is eating the kick and throwing my cross. If I don't react fast enough or I don't see the kick coming for whatever reason, I'll go with the flow and fire my cross to double step low kick anyways. I prefer doing this with my outside lead leg as it has been conditioned from getting kicked standing in orthodox stance for the last 16 years, to a point where I actually don't mind being kicked in the leg, especially if it is to trade for a cross to my opponent's face. Because I keep a lot of weight on my lead leg, it makes it easy for me to flex my thigh, brace, and absorb the kick as I throw that cross. Experienced opponents will react fast enough and parry the cross, but by following up with the double step low kick, or even better, my cross hook double step low kick, I can at least kick them back and potentially land 1 or 2 punches before that. Hope you guys enjoyed this Top Moves series, and if you want to see more, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely let me know what other top moves you'd like to see by commenting below.